Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking, after 4 hours sleep, with Mr X and Kaleb from the Macky Rat podcast. Hey guys, how you doing? How is it over there at such a late time of night?
We like to refer to it as across the pond.
A very bloody big pond.
Yeah, so we actually do this podcast from like different locations. I'm in sunny California. The sun isn't out right now, but sunny California. And it's 11:12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time where I'm at. And Kaleb, where are you coming from? I don't remember.
I'm in a city called Tacoma. Nobody in the UK will know where that is, but it's near Seattle, and it is also around the 11 o'clock hour here.
Is it raining like it always is in Seattle on the television and film?
We just finished with some rain, actually, but right now I think it's just overcast and cool, probably about the same as wherever you are.
Probably.
Is it foggy? Is it foggy in Tacoma?
I don't think so at the moment. No,
It's
I know you
probably
like
not
the weather
same
updates.
Yeah. I always complain about boring weather updates. So it was probably the perfect question, really, to segue into a weather update, Marv. Now, Marv,
well, it's foggy in the UK, and we've got temperature of, it won't mean much to Americans, of 3 degrees centigrade outside.
Mm.
Oh, I love that. Centigrade. Yeah,
Centigrade.
That's cool.
Centigrade.
It's like 37 our temperature, I think.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Marv is mostly a nickname for Marvin.
Yeah, but my name is Martin. But yes, I know it's strange. Yeah.
All right. Have you ever heard of Martin Lawrence?
Oh, Bad Boys. I'm trying to think what else.
Okay, yeah, so you have. Okay.
Marv Lawrence.
Marv.
Big Mama's
Martin
House.
Lawrence.
Is that one of his?
Yeah, that is Big Mama's House.
Wow, yeah, very
classic,
good. Yeah.
Classic Martin Lawrence film. Yes.
There we go. I've run out of Martin Lawrence films now. Did you? Oh no! Didn't you do one with Tim Robbins? What was that one?
Yeah, that movie's called oh yeah, I know. I can't remember though. They're like security guards, I know.
Nothing But Trouble? Is that the one? Or is that something else?
No, that's not it.
Google
Anyways,
says Nothing to Lose.
Nothing to Lose. That's what it is.
That's
Yeah. That's
There we
pretty
go.
good.
Thank you, Google.
Absolutely. They're
Other search
stealing.
engines are available if you want to bother.
Yeah, web crawler. That's where I mostly get my movie trivia from. But anyways, that's old
That's where
stuff.
Peter Parker gets this from as well.
Is that Spider-Man?
It is. Yep.
I'll be Spider-Man for Halloween this year.
What would your choice be for Halloween then, Kaleb?
I think the only thing I've ever been, well, no, I take it back. I've been a couple of things, but usually I'm a Mortal Kombat character, like Raiden. I don't know if if you're familiar with video games.
I am. I used to play that.
Right. Oh yeah, I would often dress up as the god of thunder, Raiden.
That and Street Fighter always used to be on the games machines back in the day.
Yeah, that's him. We grew up in the heyday of arcade gaming. So Street Fighter 2 all the way through Street Fighter 3, which that doesn't sound like a lot. So if anyone's young out there, that doesn't sound like a long time, but it was. I will also, but normally I just dress up in the costume of the greatest threat to America in history, according to the Biden administration, a white person.
Dear me. A white person with a slightly orange complexion, perhaps.
Yeah, that's pretty much absolutely, that's the greatest threat to America. Yeah. And I'm sure you haven't listened to every one of our podcasts, but we do believe that.
Do they do anything for Halloween in the UK there, Marv?
They've started.
They walk around in alleys and they kill prostitutes. The famous one.
And they go around shouting "Oi" to everybody.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. Let's just start over. It's you said it's 7:10 in the morning, right?
Yep, I have.
Hey, well, morning, governor.
I've had to come up the apples and pears to do this.
I'm not familiar with that.
Is that some kind of rhyming slang?
You're rapping now? That's cool.
Stairs.
Stairs, apples and pears.
I'm not from that way, but I sort of know some of the Cockney rhyming slang. There you go. Multilingual.
You're from Nottingham.
I am, so I wouldn't know any Cockney.
You know what's funny about Cockney? Like David Beckham, he's like one of the most handsome men in the world, right? But then he opens his mouth and he's like, "Hey, it's me, yeah, David Beckham, me." Well, he used to, but he kind of cleaned up. Like for interviews now, he's kind of like churched up the way he talks. But he used to have like a Cockney accent, right?
Yeah. Yep, it's a bit like when Adele starts to speak, you don't expect her voice to sound like that.
Mm.
No, I expected her to have like an eel pie spewing from her mouth, but then she lost all this weight now, so I don't think that anymore. Now I think she's cool. Anyways,
you've had an introduction to Macky Rat already with the speaking.
Yeah, we like to play it fast and loose on our podcast and try to I can't say this I can absolutely say this is true for him. We've known each other for a long time. We've known each other for like probably like 30 years.
Longer than that, probably, yeah.
Yeah. 30.5 years. Thanks for the correction. So I can definitely say this is true, but I try to know like a little bit about everything, even if it's just like one small thing. It kind of disarms people, Anyways, you can ask us about our podcast now.
Okay. Well, that's one small thing, for mankind and for man, and one giant thing for mankind or whatever. Yep.
Yeah, that's Neil Armstrong.
It is
very good.
See, just in case anyone doubted me.
That's true. So, what was your introduction to podcasting then? Have you been listening to podcasts for a long time?
I would say absolutely not. This is a story we've told before on our podcast, but we famously got into podcasting because Joe Rogan, obviously a lot of people got into it because of Joe Rogan, they like him. Yeah. But I used to think like Joe Rogan is like either like the best person at interviews in the world or like the dumbest person in the world. Because people will be like, anyways, there's new evidence about Bigfoot. And then he'll be like, "Oh yeah? What's that?" And they'll be like, "Oh, you haven't heard of Bigfoot?" It's like, "No, tell me about it." And it's like, do you really not know? Or anyways, so I was like, if this moron, and God bless him, we're not trying to deviate from the Church of Joe, but God bless him. But I was like, if this guy can do it, and plus he's shorter than me, so I was like, if this guy who's shorter than me can do it, I'm not very tall at all. But if this man who's shorter than me can do it, why can't we? Right?
Yeah. I heard that in episode 1 you said that as well.
Oh, is that true? Oh, really?
Wow.
I've listened.
Is this
Marv
true?
knows more about our podcast
Yeah, I
than
know.
we do.
I didn't. When I said I've said this before in the podcast, I wasn't quite sure about that, but thank you.
Nice.
Kaleb, is there a real reason we got into something inspired us to get into podcasting? I have no idea.
So you can make all the money that Joe Rogan does.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, I know you've always liked doing, ever since we used to listen to the Doghouse, you wanted to do something like that. I know that that's kind of been a thing that you've been interested in. And of course we have to beat Steve's Friends podcast in terms of episode count.
Yeah, if you really want to know, if you have a second, I'll tell you. One, yeah, he's talking about the Doghouse was like a kind of knockoff Howard Stern show, wake up show from the 90s in San Francisco on Wild 94.9, and which is a popular radio station up there. And you know, we grew up in the time where radio still existed, you know, before Spotify and stuff. So like we had like Phil Henry, and he did like a talk show basically, and he'd do his own like impressions and stuff, and I do impressions and fake characters and stuff on our show. And we love Coast to Coast Radio, which with like Art Bell and George Norrie, and before the internet and YouTube, and actually YouTube doesn't allow it anymore, but like before those things existed, people would get like their conspiracy theories from Coast to Coast FM, and they talk about the paranormal and UFOs and conspiracies and Area 51 and all that cool stuff. And then of course Stern and Rush Limbaugh, bombastic Rush Limbaugh, and you know, all those greats, you know, all the masters of the microphone, and you know, just golden era TV like The Simpsons, South Park, Family Guy, back when they were interesting, you know, not all tired like how they are now. And we tried doing streaming to equally as great of success as our podcast, which is not at all. But I thought we were funny. So I was like, you know what? Let's do a podcast. And it was me. And so Nate, who used to be on the show, but he is a recovering alcoholic, and he's trying to mend things with his family. So he can't be on the show anymore. Cause like when you get in trouble with like your family and stuff, they're like, you know, you had this addiction, and they're like, you had this addiction to have like some escape from like the troubles in your life and in your mind. And they're like, okay, well, guess what, buddy? Now you're really in trouble. You know, we're gonna take away everything you love.
No more podcast.
No more podcast.
Damn,
and yeah, so it was me, and so Nate gave me a computer, right? And I was like, well, I better do something with this friggin' thing. And we're like, let's start a podcast. And we're streaming with this guy named Steve, who we hate, and he bailed on us, and I was like, okay, well, we're screwed. But then I was like, of course I know someone who is funny and interesting, and you know, not at every corner wishing for, you know, the great success of me. I was like, well, why not bring Kaleb on? And Steve's brother had a podcast, and we're like, well, if his brother can do this horrible podcast, why can't we? I don't know. That was a very long story. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. In episode 1, you mentioned about Steve and say that he will never be on the show. So that stayed that way.
Absolutely.
That is one of our pod promises. Yes, we have several pod promises. One, and I think this is it. You've listened to this more recently.
Yeah.
Our pod promises are: 1, we'll keep it light. we are not here to cause a lot of controversies. We will take no stance on any, major conflicts going on in the world, like some are now, which we will not take a stand. We won't blow that for you either, Marv.
Okay.
Our no money back guarantee. If we ever make any money from this pod, if someone wants it back, they will not get that money back. We promise you that. And 3, pod promise number 3, Steve will never be on the show. That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
And it's remained true. And he never will be.
But you've already explained show history and to a degree show description. You just talk about anything that comes to mind. I mean, do you actually have like ideas of things that you're going to discuss in the show, or things that, do you like take notes in the week and think, do you know what, that might be interesting to bring that up? Or is it just as it comes?
Kaleb, would you like to field this question?
So Mr. X often makes show notes, and the only thing notable I would say about the show notes is that they often serve as things that are never mentioned during each podcast. But we do have ideas generally of things that might happen during the week, or we look for news stories on maybe less than reputable news sites that have comical stories that we can talk about. But it's often just a kind of a stream of consciousness thing, I would say. And we have reoccurring things like role plays and things that we do. But yeah.
Yeah. MSN News is a great place to find like schlock stories. It rolls.
Mm-hmm.
You prefer that to the Onion then?
It's like a more satirical version of the American media is like a more satirical and less, reliable version of the Onion. Yes.
Yeah. Go on. Yeah. I was going to say occasionally Mr. X will do episodes on his own as well when they've had technical difficulties.
I did do one on my own, yeah, because I want to release a episode every single week, and I did one time do like a manosphere style, like more serious podcast, one episode where I had seen like this article that was like about how suicide rates, especially in young men, were at an all-time high. And that really got to me. And we didn't have a show. So I was like, well, I'm going to speak. This is something that, I've felt something, in my heart for, because I obviously it's nothing, groundbreaking to say. You don't want people to do something like that, but apparently a lot of people are. So sometimes, on the rarest of occasions, only once now, I did do my own podcast to meet the schedule, but also because it was something that spoke to me. And when I was a kid, this is all very funny stuff for a comedy podcast, by the way. I was it was something so simple, but when I was growing up, it was something that, my parents are pretty liberal, so they're like, we'll have heart to hearts on occasion and be honest with each other, which is something I vowed never to do with my children. But my dad was like, look, you don't, no matter what, no matter how bad things get, there's always like alternatives. And, you basically, and I don't know if we should or shouldn't, but he spelled it out for me. Like, you shouldn't kill yourself. At the very least, you can, be a thorn in other people's sides by staying alive.
Absolutely.
And that probably is kind of all sorts of horrible things my dad did to me are, part of the podcast, I guess.
Childhood traumas. Awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question, Marv.
Okay.
Surely there's some brilliant, I don't mean this in the English sense, like brilliant, like some sort of advice your parents gave to you that you can share with us?
Never eat yellow snow.
That's good advice.
Wow.
That is
Yeah.
good advice.
That is
I'll say
brilliant.
that. Wish my dad had told me that, because it would have, prevented a lifetime of, a certain fetish that some people enjoy, So that's the origin point for me. Anyways.
And I know I learned from a film never to eat gum that's underneath seats in subways.
What movie's that?
Elf? Because he does it on the subway stairs, doesn't he? Or
Oh.
whatever, where he finds the gum under the.
That's right. That's Elf. That's a
Wow.
good movie. That's actually at first I was like, this movie sucks because I don't like Will Ferrell. I don't love Will Ferrell. I don't hate him, but I definitely don't need to see every one of his movies.
He plays the same character in everyone.
Yeah, he screams. He likes to scream a lot, and there's no shortage of that in Elf. But it is a little bit more. There are heartfelt moments, like when people need to believe in Santa Claus to power a sleigh. That's a really good scene. Anyways, we love movies. Let me just say that about our podcast. At its core, we try to talk about movies, politics, and our personal lives.
But usually not in a serious way like you just have.
Definitely not. It's like a stream of conscious type thing, whatever we can. If we go off on something, we go off on it. Otherwise, we can always go back to that, whatever.
It's funny because when you do go probably a bit too serious, one of the others will sort of pull you back and throw it back into the humorous side.
That's really important for me because I can probably like go off on a tirade on occasion,
Yeah.
That definitely enters the danger zone, which I know that about myself. That's why I use my pseudonym Mr X, because it's like I don't want people canceling me in real life because I said something about I don't know. I'll leave it up to your pod actually.
So you record and edit then, as we've already spoken before we started the show officially. You record and edit using Discord.
Editing is a probably generous term for what we usually do to the podcast. Mostly we just kind of actually I want to hear usually I'm the person that kind of helps Mr. X deal with the technical side of things. I'm curious to hear his explanation of the technical side. So why don't you explain, Mr. X?
There is no editing going on this show.
Okay.
There is, well, actually, sometimes I'll say my actual name, and so I did like writing and film related stuff, and I have a very acute name, so sometimes I'll say it, and then the editing is I send the file to Kaleb and he edits it first of all.
Okay.
But we might throw in like a bleep or something like that. Or we used to say Nate's kid's name and we try to bleep that, but it slipped through plenty of times. We did a bad job with that, but we did a very good job with at least covering my identity. But no real editing now.
And how do we record it?
We record. So we do connect through Discord, but we use this program called, is it OBS? I believe.
Yes.
OBS. Kaleb recommended it to me just to get this pod off the ground.
Well, it's what you use for streaming.
Yeah, but it records in a weird file. And then Steve and Kaleb got in a fight over it one time because it records in a strange audio format called MKV, maybe.
Yeah.
Ooh, yep.
So it records in MKV, and then we have to change it to MP3. And anyways, it does the job for us because I'm very low-fi when it comes to technology. I don't know much about it. Even probably OBS Kaleb had to show me Kaleb is my go-to, and this has been the case for my entire life. Probably every time I got a virus, this is back. This is less the case now with streaming and stuff, but probably every time I got a virus from downloading pornography onto my computer and it needed to be fixed, Kaleb fixed it for me.
Mhm.
God bless him for that. Has that ever happened to you, Marv? You download some porn and you get a virus?
No, but I did have a virus on the computer. Was it beginning of this year? And it lost loads of episode stuff. So that's so Kaleb is the cue for Mr X then, with the technical stuff.
What?
that was a James Bond. That was a James Bond.
Reference. Cue. I was trying to figure out where you were going with that. I'm like, is this some British slang that I'm not aware of? Yeah. I would be his cue, I suppose. Yes, except I'm not a cantankerous old British woman, but I am a technical person. Yeah.
No, that's Q is the scientist. Whatchamacallit is Judi Dench.
Which one is that?
M.
What letter does she have? Does she have a different letter?
M.
M. Mum. They call her Mum. Yeah, that's M. Q is the old guy in the nice suits. He wears tweed suits oftentimes. I believe he's portrayed in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good. It's good look. And then later they made it some freaking fruity gay boy whose sexy skinny ass is just
Yeah.
Anyways,
rivaling James Bond.
It would have been cool if James Bond, how he has anyways, never mind.
We'll see how they change Bond when he comes back, shall we?
I'm hoping for a black Bond.
Yeah. The black chick was supposed to replace him, or a bird, as your folks say. And and I love that send off for James Bond. Spoilers alert, when they killed him, they basically gave him AIDS. I love that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they were like, you can never, this is coded, but they're like, you can never get near your family or loved ones again because of these nano machines in your bloodstream, which is basically you can never have sex again because you have AIDS, which is the perfect send off for us. Typical Hollywood. I'd blow myself up with missiles too. Anyways, it's just a thought I had.
It's like the cliche or the trope in horror films, isn't it? Where you've got a camp full of kids that are all having sex with each other. So somebody comes who kills them all.
Yeah, this time it was the liberal Hollywood ideogogues.
It was.
Anyway, the other thing was, how they're talking about. Do you like those? Do you like the Daniel? You are an actual person who has James Bond in their blood. Do you like how they portray? Do you like the Daniel Craig James Bond?
I don't mind him, but I don't like the films other than the first one. I liked Casino Royale. I thought that was fantastic, but all the other ones after that, I didn't much care for with him.
You're right.
Yeah, Casino Royale rules. Yeah, that movie was amazing. A bunch of stuff happens. An hour and 20 minutes of stuff happens, and then they're like, now you're gonna go play cards for 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That does rule, dude. I agree. You are right, Marv.
It's like switching on late night TV and watching those poker people on television, isn't it? For an hour or something. Yeah, how am I doing here? I've got a full house. What have you got? And all, it's riveting, just like that is.
Yeah, you went on paper. They're probably like, what the hell is this? There's and then, the French guy has 3 kings. Yeah. Le Chiffre has three kings. It's great writing there, but it did come across pretty pretty badass. I do like that. I'm 100%. I agree. What's your favorite? This is the podcaster and me coming out. What's your favorite James Bond movie?
I was wondering that too.
I sort of sometimes it's Goldfinger, which would be the classic, or sometimes it's From Russia with Love. Both
I
Sean
like
Connery films.
Yeah, sure. Sean Connery is probably the quintessential. I mean, Roger Moore is cool too, but for sure, Sean Connery is the quintessential Bond. I like the ones with midgets in them or midges, or you're not allowed to say that. I mean, little persons. Like the man with the golden gun that has a midge in it, and then Moonraker that has a midget in it too. So
yeah, I mean, Man with the Golden Gun, he runs in and it's almost exactly copy of what he did for Fantasy Island, because he runs in and lets the bloke know when a plane's arrived.
it's exactly like Epstein Island, if that's what you're talking about.
Yep, Fantasy Island. Yeah,
yeah. James Bond's the best. Too bad they got rid of him having sex with a bunch of broads. That was cool.
That was cool.
Anyways, well, you got some more questions for us? Or?
you know when people moan about that in the Bond films, what they don't realize is it's a film, it's not reality.
Actually, honeypot or mangina is a real spy technique. It's called the art of seduction, and it's a great way to pump people for information or just move up in your career. That's one of the principles I stand by. Like, if you can have sex with your boss, then you pretty much have like a power over them. Or if you can do something even deeper romantically, there's all sorts of information you can get or favors or all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, it's a film, but I mean, it's a common, especially but a Chinese, man. The Chinese, they're just throwing tang all over the world, man. They're masters of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So the logo then pretty says what it needs to say. Where did the name come from, by the way? Macky Rat. What's that all about?
Kaleb.
So I knew you were gonna have me answer this one. So the name, as I recall, and I'm sure this is a story that Mr. X can tell better than I can, but Nate, who is the alcoholic we previously mentioned, it is not on the show anymore, accidentally he went to type Mickey Mouse, I guess, and he typed Macky Mouse or something. And we were coming up with names we were trying to think of something to name the pod that was unique. And I think the first idea we had is like the Ro Jogan podcast, which is obviously not unique at whatsoever. A million people have come up with that idea, so that it was already taken. So we thought to use Macky Rat. And I guess the first few episodes, we attempted not to link it to Disney intellectual property, but then we just said whatever. And yeah, we when giving our Twitter handle, we spell it to the theme of the Mickey Mouse theme, or the Mickey Mouse show theme song.
Nice.
Yeah, we got away from that one pretty quickly. We're like, let's just sing. I always say, if Disney came and sue us, that'd be like the best publicity we ever got.
Absolutely, yeah,
that'd be really cool.
Suddenly get millions of listens. What's all this? What's these podcasts then that Disney have decided to sue?
I don't know. So, as mentioned before, we listen to no podcasts. We will listen to yours moving forward, by the way.
I wish I had before being here. Yeah, he's done a bunch of research on ours.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Disney, of course, has a history of suing people and just being insane. Like, they tried to copyright the phrase Dia de los Muertos because of that, the movie about the kid who wants to, I don't know, see his dog. His dog goes to hell or something. I can't. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
But these people are insane and they must be stopped. So this is a call to action. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't surprise me, like Disney, and for people who love it and are like, oh, Disney, this and that, they are pretty much like one of the most I don't like the trash corporations, but they are one of the most evil corporations. And we'd have a picture of Mickey Mouse if we could, but I am genuinely worried, even with 10 downloads a week, I'm still worried about Disney coming after me, if not killing me.
But pretty soon Steamboat Willie will enter the public domain, so we could actually use a picture of Steamboat Willie as our icon soon.
Oh, write that down.
Yeah, you've got about another 5 years, haven't you? I think, and then it will enter the public domain after 100 years. Is it?
Yeah.
Our podcast will have been long ended by then. Scratch that. No need to write it down.
Yep, 2028. You can use it.
Oh,
hell yeah!
Son of a gun. Well, maybe we'll start a new podcast then.
Right,
just about Steamboat Willie. Just erotic stories about Steamboat Willie, mouse steamboat sex.
And that's a rarity because it's actually Walt Disney animating that one as well.
Walt Disney is a genius. Okay, so like when you go to Disneyland, so Disneyland's like flipping like 40 minutes away from me. We always go to ghetto downtown Disney. We've talked about it on the pod. It's pretty ghetto there. And if you like girls with tattoos, if you like moms with tattoos, that's definitely the place for you. But when you go to Disneyland, they have all these new rides and they suck. But anything that Walt Disney had some sort of oversight in is still amazing. Like there's this animatronic Abraham Lincoln, and he gives like a speech, the emancipation speech maybe, and before that they play this little cartoon, and it's like I'm not really good at American history, but they're like in 18 whatever, there was a civil war, this and that, and it's just like this really liminal cartoon. And my wife was the thing. She's Chinese, and not a spy. Oh well, she might be a spy. I don't know, but honeypot, yeah. So she's there, and it fades to black, and all the lights go off, and she started to get up, and I was like, no, that's not it. Sit down. And then the lights go on Abraham Lincoln, and his eyes turn this bloody Terminator red, and he's like, and he like stands up. Maybe his eyes don't change. Actually, that's from The Simpsons. And he stands up and he like puts his hand on the inside of his coat, and my wife was like, oh, it was like, so it actually like got elicited emotional response from her, and I was like, that's when I really was like, Walt Disney was the man. I think he'd be probably pretty sad, especially with the lesbian kiss in Lightyear, and I doubt he was a fan of that. But I think he'd probably be pretty sad with the state of Disney today.
Probably.
Do you like Marvel movies, Marv? You have part of their name in your nickname, so.
I like a fair few of them, but some of the more recent ones not so much.
We hate them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's okay if you don't like them. We don't like them either.
Yeah,
if you do like them, that's okay too. I get it. People like them. It's fine. I like, you ever seen No Country for Old Men?
Not yet. No.
Oh, we should watch that.
Geez.
I've been trying to get Caleb to watch it with me, and he won't. He's seen it already, but he won't watch it with me. He's always like, I'm down, but we never do. You should watch it with us.
We could do a stream, do a watch along.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, sure.
Do it on a bad connection so that when somebody's like 5 minutes behind you watching the film.
Absolutely.
It's all the same, really, you know. We tried to do that one time. We tried to watch The Room and do like a recording. And then we were just like, we were just like laughing at the movies. We thought we were all smart and could do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000. And we're just like laughing at it like morons. Anyways.
Have you seen The Room, Marv?
No, but I've heard interesting things about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tommy Wiseau, he drives around like West Hollywood. I don't know why he chose West Hollywood's like a very popular gay location.
Yep.
And you know, if that's your thing, that's the place to go. Let me tell you.
Prima, I'm not making a cameo on Marv's podcast as well.
I know, I can hear that.
So my wife's like right behind me snoring, and she told me to be quiet. I'm being pretty loud. So, I mean, you know, but you know, she pretty much controls me. So, anyways, I was in West Hollywood, and he like drives around with this Hummer, and let me see, I don't know if I could shield it. Maybe I can put my mouth closer. No, it's not gonna help. Anyways, he like drives around in this Hummer with like The Room plastered on the windows, and he was driving down a alley all quickly, and then one time he almost ran me over, and I was like, what the hell, you know, shouting at him because he almost killed me. And he just like gave me like this goofy like, I'm loving life and I'm rich from this dumb movie like look on his face, and like shrugged and drove off. And I was like, man, this guy rules.
He's living his life.
True story.
Living the dream.
Yeah, he is. He is. More than us. So
we've already done subject choices. Are there any episodes or subjects or moments in the episode that have really stood out to you that you know you've really enjoyed?
Kaleb, do you think of one? I can't remember. We never listen to these freaking things.
Yeah, I think the parts that are fans, or maybe fans is a little generous as well, but people have mentioned that they enjoy the Nate's role plays, which unfortunately we can't do anymore because Nate is off drinking copious amounts of alcohol. But yeah, Mr. X and Nate used to do these Nate's role plays, which are always hilarious because Nate. How would you explain Nate's why he's so good at these role plays? I don't even know how to describe it.
He doesn't like contribute anything to them. You know, people love that. He's kind of like an everyman, you know, just like a schlubby everyman type guy, drinking his beers to, you know, the point where it's like ruining his life, and, you know, just being like an everyman. And that is definitely what is endearing about him too, you know, because it's like most people aren't, you know, interesting or creative or having their own, like, you know, thoughts. I guess no one does, you know. I guess everything's shaped by something, but that's what people love about Nate, you know. They're like, this guy's just like me. He doesn't know how to fucking respond to this thing, you know. For me, I think I find it interesting how much we've changed, you know.
Yep.
Like we went from like I think it's like episode, like in the first like 10 episodes, I tell this story about how my mom calls Snicker bars Snicker bars. And just because she, you know, they didn't quite educate women exactly like how they did men back when my mom went to school. So her not being able to read, you know, isn't by no fault of her own. But, you know, we went from something so silly and loving that to now just hating doing a podcast and hating each other and hating doing a podcast together. So, I mean, it's that I find very interesting. I don't know if you can hear it in the pod, but each episode, like many podcasts and even Joe Rogan Experience, it's like filled with 90% boring filler, and then 10%, maybe 10% is a little generous actually, but at least we'll have something that's funny every episode. And if we can do something like that, like it's one laugh out of someone. I mean, one laugh is like, come on, When's the last time how often do you go to like a comedy movie or something? Like just you're sitting there and you might be entertained, but you're not laughing, you know?
Hmm.
So I can't really remember. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. So
Like a Will Ferrell film.
exactly like Will Ferrell film. I mean, if you can get through a whole friggin' Will Ferrell movie without shutting it off and like being like, "Arr!" I mean, God bless you, man. If you can drive enjoyment for that, I'm jealous. We're jealous of stuff like that. Like the people that can watch 36 Marvel movies and be like, they just keep getting better and better, you know?
Just keep getting
Hats
worse
off
and
to you.
worse.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, they are technically, but I mean, don't tell someone that who loves them. They'll take out their Thor hammer and,
Don't
they won't
tell
know how to use
Steve.
it. And they won't know how to use it because they're dummies. But, it's still pretty intimidating. We've taken enough of your time. I apologize about this, Marv.
That's all right. That's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we made you wake up all early for this.
You have, yes. So where are we? We've done logo. I'd put music as well, but is the show music? I can't remember.
Sometimes I'll do a parody song.
Right.
Like on Thanksgiving, we did the Thanksgiving, what? I guess the Thanksgiving episode and the Christmas episode, they both do singing. And on occasion, I will do a parody song. I do parody songs quite often, just singing, songs that are parodies, trashing my wife in the car. But only a select few times have I done parody songs. And that's mostly we try to kind of stay away from it because we use licensed music. And I don't know how to make music. We used one in the very first episode. Our friend who's a musician, and his name's Tigran, and he ran over a dog one time, and he tried to cover it up, and he made a song for us, and I used it in the very first episode. And then I was like, you know what, this isn't this production value and this stuff, like, this isn't something we can keep up. I can't ask this guy for a new song all the damn
That's
time.
not the Macky Rat way.
Nah. Shoestring budget here. We are real starving artists.
He did use the Unsolved Mysteries theme one time.
Yeah, we'll still music, know.
Yeah, occasionally we play some copyrighted stuff.
I'm all for stealing. I think, these mass looters, I mean, who cares? Anyways,
so long as nobody tells them, they're not going to know that you're using their music. I think
exactly.
Well, until AI gets, who knows?
Yeah, they'll start having AI that detects when music's on a show or something, and then they'll flag you.
Yeah, I'm sure they have like AI that can comb already exists can comb everything on the internet ever that they're practicing for the DCMA stuff, so Disney can come and knock on your door and be like, sign this paper saying that you owe us $90,000. Anyways, it's crazy.
I've had it on Instagram before where I've posted up like music things, like when I've been to concerts. I had it with I was forced to take down Motley Crue when I went to go and see them. And all sorts where I've done that, and it said you're using music that you're not licensed to put out. And I'm just thinking, no, I'm just putting up that I went to this concert and there was this cool bit where for some reason or another Tommy Lee decided to play drums upside down on the roof.
That's like madness.
If anything, that's just making more money for the artists because you're just kind of like spreading their presence around the internet.
It's all Metallica's fault. It is
largely Metallica's fault.
This is Metallica's fault. They ruined Napster. They ruined Kazaa. They ruined all the ways that you could steal music back in the day. I mean, we found workarounds since, but that's like some very, Orwellian. I don't like to throw it. That's a word that dumb people use, I know, but I mean, it is like, imagine you are at your child's first birthday party, and it's at the beach and someone's playing, I don't know, well, let's say Dr. Dre on the beach, you know?
Yep.
And you can't share that video, and everything has to be done through soon only photographs, soon only family memories will be able to be shared through Facebook and Instagram, a subsidiary of Meta, aka Facebook. And you won't be able to show that because someone was playing music at a place you're at. They're like, we need to, they strip you of your memories. Like, that is like, it's terrifying, you know? Anyways, I'm sorry that happened to you, Marv. Don't worry. We'll go down to Meta tomorrow and we'll throw a rock. We'll throw a brick through their window for you.
Someone needs to, because they're wanting to bloody charge you on those services now, aren't they?
Everything's gonna. This is all microtransactions' fault. You know, it started with like downloadable content. Who would have thought that video games? Well, actually, people have been saying this for years, and they were right. It turns out that the crazy '90s Republicans were right, and video games would be our downfall. But it started off with like downloadable content and stuff. And people are like, oh, I don't mind paying a little more for this and that. And then like streaming and stuff. Like, I remember talking to this guy, and it's like, I'm gonna get rid of TV because you can do this. You can only pay. You can pay for on streaming. You can pay for channels you're going to use and this and that. I'm like, you live in front of this friggin' thing. You're going to end up spending more money in the end to for what you got now. And they were just like, they're like, no. First they argue with me, like, no, I won't. And now they do.
Yep.
And they're like, I'm old, the better for it. I'm all, whatever happened to like a sense of like, fighting, standing up against the man, like that's madness. They want us to pay $1 for Twitter now.
Yeah. But they're wanting to start doing the same thing with the Facebook and the X and all the metaverse as well, because I've had messages about that recently as well. I think a lot of people have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, imagine paying for Facebook. Okay,
yeah.
Just think about that.
I pay not to have Facebook in my life, honestly. Just get rid of all social media. I don't ever want to see it.
It's like this thing where it selectively chooses who you can see. So all the girls from high school that I want to have sex with that I added on Facebook, I don't even get to see them in my stream,
Mm-hmm.
So it curates it. You have 5 people. You scroll down, paid advertisement filled with Indian bots. You want me to pay fucking $10 a month for that? Are you crazy?
Let's face it, we're all going back to the old chat room, but sort of mentality, aren't we? That's what we'll end up doing.
I would actually, that sounds great.
I welcome that. Yeah.
Yeah. I welcome them normalizing asking people for cyber sex again. Yes.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to people then if they wanted to make a podcast of their own?
Wow. Kaleb, do you have anything?
So many thoughts on that. My knee-jerk reaction is don't do it.
That's good. Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, at the end, we had a guest on the Macky Rat pod one time, from a podcast called The Fucking Reality Queens, where they basically talk about reality TV shows. And I think this is something that she said. She basically just said, like, if you've got some any kind of sort of creative bone in your body, just go for it. Like any other artist, if you have something that you want to do, just put it out there and don't worry about who's going to consume it or who's going to take enjoyment from it. Just put it out there and see what happens. It's better to create than just keep it inside you. So that's what I would say, I guess.
She would later go on to be soured over her place on the podcast and block us on Twitter. But
that's excellent.
But I agree with that. I think that for us, the most successful people, they do follow trends. They do create these thumbnails with the soy face, and the
clickbait thumbnails.
Yeah, they do that, but we don't, because we are under the arcane belief that you create art that you want to create, and your fans will eventually come to that. I don't know if that's true for today's youth. I don't know if they're capable of discerning what they like and what they are told to like, but we're hoping that that's the case, and that by doing stuff like this, we'll be able to reach a greater audience and this and that. But I think the famous saying is the difference between an insane person and an artist is a body of work. I'm not sure it's the exact quote, but it's something like that. And I truly do believe that.
Right. It's cool. So you've already said you don't actually listen to any podcast, or was that you just saying that you don't listen to any podcast?
No, we don't listen to any podcasts.
We do not listen to any podcasts. Although I will be, after this, checking out your podcast.
We'll listen to yours. Sure.
I can't promise I'm going to listen to a whole bunch of them or even just one entire episode, but I will at least listen to some of your podcasts.
That's nice of you. I do not. I think
Mr. X makes no such promise.
There are podcasts out there that people have recommended to me, the
Joe Rogan podcast,
the Joe Rogan Experience. Don't listen to that. There's you can just listen to the bits and pieces of it that people like. Let me see here. Who do we got here? Someone. Hey, there's this guy called Jay Franz. He has a podcast. I've never listened to it. I've never been on it, but he does on occasion like our posts, So I'm gonna say, listen to him, and that's the Jay Franz show, the JAYFRANCE show, So he seems to have a good sense of humor. So here's to that guy. You know him? Is that it?
I don't know him. No.
Oh, of course. Well, of course, 99% of podcasts is just some fucking nut job like us, So I'm not surprised. But I think there is content out there. I am a music man. I don't watch too much like television stuff. I mostly just listen to music, and so I like music. Maybe I'll look in the podcast to talk about like indie music or something. You've inspired me, Marv. Maybe I will try to find a podcast out there that's for me that isn't my own.
Well, you got to find the time, haven't you, to fit in listening to those things around your busy life.
Yeah, each of our podcasts is an hour and a half. So yeah, good luck listening to a full episode of our garbage.
Yeah, we barely find time to even record our own. Primarily due to, I feel like Mr. X is much more earnest about finding the time to do it than Nate and I are, but especially Nate now. But yeah, I suppose if we can find it in our schedules to record a pod, we can probably find some minutes to listen to one as well.
I have nothing going on in my life. I absolutely have time, dude. I just don't. I think it's a good medium, though. I think it's a very interesting medium, especially like, if you do like radio, which I do love because I grew up with radio, and I think it's a great medium, and I think there is something out there for everyone. And if everyone out there thinks that, they like what they're hearing here, we hope that they'll listen to our podcast.
Well, that's the hope that I have. That's why I bring people like yourselves on, so that people can sort of discover what you like and think, oh, I like the sound of them. I'll go and have a listen to some episodes of their show, and hopefully they'll, become big fans of the show, and eventually probably contact you and send messages. Hopefully, Now, where
That'd
would
be
they,
amazing.
now where would they send those messages, and where would they get hold of you?
Oh yeah, you can follow us at MackyRathHousc. I mean MackyRathHousc, and that's us on Twitter. In our profile, you can find our links. We have our Spotify in there. And you know what? Actually, that's pretty much it. That's where you can find us right now. We release a new episode every Tuesday at 4:20 a.m. 4:20 man, Pacific Standard Time. And you know, we try to be pretty religious with that time. And yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're really doing like a benevolent thing, taking time, sleeping only 4 hours after doing a Beatles pod. How many podcasts do you do, by the way? You said you did a Beatles podcast.
So I do this one, and then there's a Beatles podcast called When There Was Fab that's been going for many years, and they've had some issues, so they needed a presenter, and they contacted me and said, "Oh, do you want to do occasional episodes?" And I've said, "Yeah," and that ends up being quite often, actually. And then there's another podcast called Top of the Most of the Poppermost, which is about, I mean, it's sort of Beatles related ish as well. It's weird because my favorite band's Queen. But they do a podcast. That's a podcast about the charts around when the Beatles were, and having a look to see what was going on in the music scenes and people that were sort of like influenced or were friends with the Beatles. Say, yeah.
Oh, that's good. Maybe I'll listen to that one. I love the Beatles. Sergeant Pepper's, but I like the stuff that's less you know, I don't know if you call it mainstream. They're all dead now, right?
Well, half of them are, aren't they? Two of them are still alive. Ringo and Paul are still around.
You know, it's a great Beatles story. George Harrison, he goes and he like has cancer, and then he beats cancer, you know, and then a fan breaks into his house and stabbed him. Isn't that great?
Wow.
Isn't that great? Beatles. The Beatles are amazing, man. They're so great, dude.
And then he survived that stabbing and died of cancer anyway.
Yeah, he survived the stabbing and he went on to die of cancer, dude. That rocks, man.
Very
They
impressive,
really
yeah.
were. And you can't, and like, you know, even now I hear like new artists and indie artists and stuff, and I'll be like, this is obviously drawing inspiration from the Beatles. And you know, anyways, they're amazing. I'm glad you like the Beatles. I like the Beatles too. So yeah, you can find us at MackyRathHousc on Twitter. Drop by, subscribe, and if you want to listen to some episodes, and if you want to send us a DM, do that. We will not dox you. We won't tell your friends that you like this show that is, you know, I guess at its core, kind of fanning the flames of hate, I guess. We won't dox you. Don't worry. We won't shout you out. You can be friends with us in secret.
Please slide into our DMs.
Slide into our DMs. Yeah. If any girls out there want to send us, oh, you want to hear something? You know, I was gonna say, you want to send us some nudes? Go for it. We're gonna have this guy on the show, and we were talking to him, and then he sends me like all these nudes of this broad and bird, and a picture of his and a picture of his you know, wing wang. And then I was like, what the hell, man? He's like, oh, I meant to send that to someone else. You know, it's still nice. It's still a lovely gesture.
Sure.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Marv. Thanks for having us on. And as I mentioned, you know, you're doing God's work here, man. One last thing, and we'll leave you alone. We know you
Okay.
only have 4 hours.
And one last thing.
Oh yeah, that's Columbo.
That's Columbo.
Yeah. Just one more thing. Do you find yourself to be a particularly like benevolent person in real life? Like, are you charitable? Are you kind? Like, you know, because this is not something that, you know, just anyone would do. You know, with podcasting and art, it's like all about me. Like, I'm the, you know, it's rarely where I'm like, I want to do something for others, you know?
You know, there've been times, so even before starting to the podcasting, such as when I went to a supermarket around the corner from where we lived once, I was there and I spotted this chap who was there, and it was sort of like really cold winter. And I got back home and I got Louise, my other half, between us. We sort of like made like we did a drink and put it into like a cup or something, you know. I think we made a coffee or something and put it into one of these travel mugs, and we made some sandwiches as well. And then I took them to this person and left them with them, you know. So because I just thought it's a bit cold and felt really bad for them being out there. Didn't give them any money because they probably end up buying drugs or something, you know.
You're right. They would have done that. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what we'll do with any money that people give us to our pod as well.
I will get into drugs. I promise you. That is something that I have not ever done, but yeah, I'm not surprised. Anyways, that's what I expected. I think this is amazing. I think it's an amazing podcast. And yeah, well, you know, thanks for having us on.
But I do that if I've got enough money. If I go into a supermarket and there's sort of a homeless person outside, I won't give them money. I'll actually be in the shop, buy like a packet of sandwiches and a bottle of water, and hand that to them as opposed to giving them money. That
does make more sense. Yeah.
I have another question for you then. You have offered sandwiches to people on multiple occasions. Are you a sandwich man? Do you enjoy sandwiches?
I do enjoy a good sandwich.
I thought so.
Knew it.
I love sandwiches.
Every now and again, I will have what you call a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh, that begs the question, what do you call it?
Well, jelly in England is called jam.
Oh.
We call it jam too.
So It's a peanut butter and jam sandwich is what you call it.
It's still a PBJ.
It is. You're right.
Very good, Marv. Very good.
You know, different cultures coming together. Man, I love sandwiches. I will eat a sandwich. Well, I've been trying to cut back on the carbs, but I used to eat sandwiches maybe like, especially like, you know, in my 20s, I used to have a sandwich like, it's like the perfect food, you know. You can save money by stocking up on them, you know. You can have like, anyways. Hey, what about this? What about a podcast about sandwiches?
I know, listening to a podcast without any pictures about sandwiches and people explaining what's in them.
There's got to be countless sandwiches out there. Anyways,
a podcast that makes you hungry.
Maybe I'll go make a sandwich. Maybe I'll have a peanut butter and jam myself. We got some strawberry jam from this. Anyways, that's the story for another time.
8:20 in the morning, so it must be time to have something to eat.
And it's 12:20 a.m. here. So, any stoners out there?
It's 4:20 somewhere.
I guess this isn't live, but if you're listening to this somehow at 12:20 a.m. whenever you're listening to it, if you're stoned, go out there and eat yourself a peanut butter jam sandwich.
Yep, and tag us on our socials. You've already got their socials. You can find Pods Like Us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Threads. Just look for Pods Like Us. Tag us with your pictures of sandwiches or food that you're eating while you're listening.
Hell yes. I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for having us on, Marv.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And I hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.